Imagine, all-out war erupts in the Middle East. The Strait of Hormuz is blocked. Tensions boil over in the South China Sea. Shipping routes are suppressed. Refined oil supply has all but dried up. For Australia, where just-in-time fuel supply chains are favoured, how long would your life remain as normal? After 17 days, put your keys away. There is no fuel left at the service station. In 21 days, critical infrastructure supporting hospitals, pharmacies and supermarkets would be unable to service the public. After 24 days, the country grinds to a halt. Now, Australia is a lucky country. Agriculturally, we produce more food and fibre than we consume, with the surplus feeding the world. In a country where we export 90% of biofuel feedstocks and import 90% of our refined fuels, we could do better. With canola exports alone, we are sending the equivalent of 2.7 billion litres of renewable fuel or 3 months' supply offshore. For fuel sovereignty alone, we should be looking to do more domestically with our canola and biofuel feedstocks. But there are better reasons than this. Did you hear the word renewable? Fuel produced through feedstocks such as canola, used cooking oil and tallow are classified as renewable. The carbon emissions released when the fuel is used are recycled by the feedstock during its production. If processed domestically with shorter supply chains utilising renewable energy, this 2.7 billion litres of renewable fuel would release 75% less greenhouse gas emissions than its fossil fuel sibling. In this room, we are farmers, scholars and colleagues. You are some of the most efficient operators in the world, thriving without subsidies or support from government. You bear the brunt of societal pressures requesting you to act environmentally, reduce chemical and nitrogen inputs, improve animal welfare, reduce fuel consumption. We now call this social licence, but you were proactively doing this years before it became popular in the media. To me, this highlights the disconnect between farmers and the broader population. As we've just mentioned and gone into in extensive detail, we need to do better to communicate our story. I do find it ironic that the very groups advocating these messages are the very ones you help the most. Traditionally, this has been through nutritious food and sustainably produced fibre. Let's extend this to help them fly. Before I continue, full disclosure. My family and I own and operate an oilseed processing facility in Ballarat, 1 hour west of Melbourne. Because of this, I'm in the fortunate position of talking directly to industry from the farmer all the way through to the biofuel companies. It is a fascinating supply chain and one that I find is surprisingly simple, yet incredibly complex due to the ever-changing certification and auditing requirements. The last 2 years has seen an incredible surge in the production and utilisation of biofuels. Governments worldwide have handed down policy after policy to decarbonise the transport sector, but it is the most recent encouragements regarding sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, that show the most promising benefits to Australian farmers. To take advantage of the biofuel boom, feedstock supply must increase. Australian farmers' ability to expand production never disappoints. So follow me back to the year 2016. After travelling the world and coming home with $12 to my name, I started work at the family farm. It was a challenging year for canola production, but Australia managed to achieve an above-average production of 3.1 million tonnes. Jump forward to 2022-23 harvest, and Australia produced 230% more with a bumper crop of 7.1 million tonnes, thanks to WA. As there have been no major developments in crush capacity domestically, most of this was shipped to Europe for the production of biodiesel. Australian canola is the preferred feedstock for EU biodiesel. The non-GM status gives us the edge over Canada, while the highly efficient farming systems employed by you keep the greenhouse gas emissions low during cultivation. As a result, refineries produce a more valuable and sustainable fuel. This has resulted in preferential treatment for your canola, with imports from Australia demanding an average of $20 to $40 premium per tonne over our main competition in Canada. This has been great news for Australian farmers, providing a very consistent outlet for your product. Now, there are many factors suggesting the flow of Australian canola into the EU will strengthen out to 2030. Production in the EU will decrease due to more strict policy regulation, Palm oil use will be phased out completely by 2030, and deforestation laws restrict the use of soybeans in European biodiesel. Even if biofuel demand was to plateau, Europe will need to increase imports by 25% over the coming decade to meet existing demand. It is clear our entire economy and society are shifting towards a more circular, resource-conscious energy solutions. So I have a question for you. Should we be big picture people? Admittedly, supplying the EU is the easy option, but is it the best and most sustainable use of resources? A market where we rely on international trade partners who can decide whether our product is sustainable enough for their needs, susceptible to logistics, sea freight, competition, and an ever-changing policy system? Or is there a better option? One where Australia can take control of fuel sovereignty, provide a consistent market for our farmers, and become world leaders in the supply of sustainable fuels, particularly aviation fuel. We have the engineering capability, we have the feedstock supply, and we have the renewable energy resources to develop a sustainable aviation industry domestically. So why leave it up to the big players, America, Europe, and Brazil? Why not do it ourselves? Thank you very much for your time. I just want to say a quick thank you to the William Buckland Fund for giving me this opportunity. It was amazing travelling around the world, meeting a lot of big picture people, big thinkers throughout my journey. Also to Nuffield, Jodie and Nicola, when she was with Nuffield, she was incredible at her job, and I thank her immensely for getting me through this year. As mentioned, I'm a 2020 scholar. On the way to the airport, I was trying to work out how many years it was since we were in Brisbane being awarded our tie. 5 years ago, so I need to thank my lovely wife at the back and our daughter Penny, who we weren't even thinking about back then 5 years ago, and also to Alistair and Joe, my parents. None of this existed 5 years ago. It's been a hell of a journey that we've been on, and I've really enjoyed being in business with you. So thank you very much.